Okay, we are starting to learn about circles. Okay, the biggest thing we need to remember about a circle is the radius. Remember, the radius is half of the circle, so from the center out. So if you know the center and you know the radius, you should be able to sketch a picture of the circle. Okay, let's look at this right here. It says, use the information to write an equation of a circle in standard form. Here is the standard form. If you remember when we were talking about parabolas, H and K are what's known as your vertex, but in this case, it is your X and Y of the center. Okay, so if I give you these coordinates as X and Y, then you literally replace it in here. Easiest way to remember to replace it is they switch signs. Okay, and here's why. If I would plug in an X minus a -6 and square that, it's actually going to become X plus 6 squared. Okay, so my negative actually became a positive. Okay, so let's just try to plug these in. My equation is X minus my X. It's right there, so I'm going to say plus 6 because it's opposite. Plus my Y coordinate, which is a +5, so when I plug it in, it becomes -5. And then it says it equals the radius squared. If my radius is 4, and I square that, I end up with 16. So there is the equation of my circle. Super easy, right there. Okay, let's look at this guy. My center. Okay, I have +2, so when I plug it in, it becomes -2. Positive or -5, when I plug it in, it becomes +5. Radius in this case, I have 3 square roots of 2, and I want to square that before I put it right here. Okay, type that in your calculator just like I have it right there. So 3 radical 2 squared. And you should get 18. Okay? Next one, just because the X value is a fraction, do not freak out. You still plug it in the same way. Okay, so it's still X minus 2/3 plus Y, opposite sign, don't forget, -4 equals 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, let's make up another one real quick. Let's say we have a center of 0, 6, and a radius of, 3. Okay, in order to do this one, same thing. X plus 0 squared. Y minus 6, opposite sign, squared equals 3 squared, which is 9. Okay, I know some of you are already sitting there saying, oh, wait, do we have to have X plus 0? No. Okay, you can simply list this as X squared because we're not adding anything to it, plus Y minus 6 equals 9. If your center has a 0 at any coordinate, either the X or the Y, you don't need parentheses. You don't have to show that it's 0. You can simply do it like that. Okay? Flip it over. This time, you're given the equation, and they want you to pull the center and the radius out of each. Okay, so they give you the equation, pull the center and the radius out. Don't forget, when we plugged it in, we flipped the sign, so when we pull it back out, we're obviously still going to flip the sign back the other way. Okay, so circle A, my center for circle A, opposite of +3, so my X center is -3, +5. On the equation, when we plugged it in, we squared the number to get here. So the opposite of squaring is to square root it. So the square root of 16 is a radius of 4. Circle B. Center, opposite of -2, +2. I don't have anybody with him, so it is 0. And my radius is the square root of 25, which is 5. Okay, now we're going to what we call completing the square. We've already done this. Okay, we did this before. The only difference is we only had x's. Now we have an x and a y. Okay, so watch. It's going to come back to you in just a second. Okay, the first step is to move the constant to the other side. Okay, so I have this guy. It's going to jump ship over here. Remember, when he moves, his +6 becomes -6. Okay, and then we're going to move our x and y's together. Okay, so my x is first. X squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 2y equals that -6. Okay, so literally I didn't do anything here except move a bunch of stuff around. Okay, I moved my x's so they're next to each other, y's so they're next to each other, and I moved my -6 from +6 over the equal sign, and he became negative. Okay, so if you remember when we did this before, this is the part where I would go ahead and tell you to set up your bubbles. Okay, so we set up bubbles, and then we set up 2 blanks over here. Okay, this was your x bubble. This is your y bubble. Both of these guys get divided by 2. -6 divided by 2 is -3. 2 divided by 2 is +1. To fill in these blanks over here, I just square the guy that I just put in parentheses. -3 squared is always going to be a positive number, in this case +9. 1 squared is 1. So the only thing left to do is make it look prettier. Okay, basically by combining this side. -6 plus 3 is a +3, plus 1 is a +4. What's the point of this? Okay, the point is that I cannot look at this in the general form and tell what the center and the radius are. Okay, because of the fact that you're used to seeing it like we saw it up here in vertex form, or standard form, sorry, where down here it's written in general form. Okay, once we complete the square and get it looking like this, it's real easy to pull the center out. Okay, opposite of what it is, so +3, opposite of what it is, and the square root of this guy. Okay, again, opposite signs when you pull them out of the equation, opposite signs if you plug them back in. Take the square root if you're pulling it from the equation to the radius, square it if you're going radius to equation. Okay? Forget this blank right here. Y'all know that I like to make my own steps up. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, step 1 all together. X's together. Y's together. This guy's jumping ship to the other side. -2, so he becomes +2. Step 2, set up your bubbles. Two, and I'm going to have 2 blanks. My X bubble and my Y bubble. -2 divided by 2 is -1. Be careful of your sign. -2 divided by 2 is -1. Square what you just put in the parentheses. Third step, clean it up. My first bubble, my second bubble, add these together, and there's your form that you can pull the center and the radius out of, because again, that is our goal. Pull the center and the radius out. Okay, now that we know what it actually looks like, +1, +1, and a radius of square root of 4, which is 2. Again, x's together. Equals -12, so when he comes over here, it becomes +12. Got my bubbles set up, my template set up, ready to go. Got my X bubble and my Y bubble. 2 divided by 2 is +1. -4 divided by 2 is -2. 1 squared, -2 squared. X plus 1 squared. +12 plus 1 plus 4 is 12. Okay, not a perfect square. Doesn't matter. Okay, opposite. Opposite. And the radius is the square root of this, which if you take the square root of 17, you get an ugly number. You get a 4.12. So technically, we can just leave it as the square root of 17. Okay, it looks much neater like that rather than... Okay, if we were going to graph it, obviously you would want to know what the square root of 17 is. But since we're not graphing it, we're just basically stating the center and the radius, then it's fine to leave it as a radical. Okay, let's try this last one together. There is not another x. It is okay to do this. Okay, that way you don't lose him. Okay, that way you're still keeping with all the steps that you're doing now. Keep with the steps. There's no x. Go ahead and just give him a 0. Give him a 0 coefficient. It doesn't change anything. Doesn't make it wrong. It's just going to help you continue with the same steps over and over. Okay, same thing. Anything divided, or 0 divided by anything is 0. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 0 squared is 0. 2 squared is 4. Okay, now's the time you can change it. Now put it back to where it was before. Okay, that way you're just, like I said, you're sticking with your steps. Whoops. Okay, again, now you can pull your center and radius out. That is our goal. That's why we're doing this. So our center x coordinate is 0. The y coordinate is -2. And the radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. Okay, Friday, y'all did these problems. So let's go over them and see if you got them right. Okay, step 1. Set up your bubbles. Oh no. Remember, our goal is to find the center and the radius. All the rest of it is just steps to get us there. Number 2. Watch your signs when you're putting your x's and y's together. Okay, again, this is a negative 4y, so he has to be negative 4 when you put him right there. Be careful of that. It changes the whole thing. One squared, 2 squared. Remember, anytime you square a negative, it always becomes positive. Every number that you fill in these blanks with over here should be positive. Okay, the first guy that jumps across the equal sign, his sign may possibly be negative. The 2 guys you fill in are always going to be positive. Squaring anything always results in a positive number. Four, and 1 is 9. So now my center, again, don't forget to flip. Negative 1, positive 2. Pulling the radius out, you square root it, so we end up with 3. Let's go back up to number 3. Kind of got a little, took over a little bit over here. X squared minus 4x, y squared minus 4y equals, b becomes negative. Bubbles. And my blanks. X bubble, y bubble. Negative 2, negative divided by positive. Negative 2. Both of these are positive. X minus 2 squared. Y minus 2 squared. Positive 4. Again, opposite signs when you take them out of the formula. Take the square root, and there's your radius. Okay, negative divided by positive, negative, positive, square it, and square it. The 9's cancel, so you're left with 25. Gives you a center of positive 5, negative 3, and a radius of 5. Going to kind of go fast through these since we've done a lot together. And they should be pretty much done. You're just checking your answers. Okay, again, watch your signs. And change the signs when you pull them out of the equation. Somebody feel free to come and hit pause anytime you want something slowed down for a second. You got something wrong and want to see how or why or whatever. Otherwise, I'm going to keep on trekking. Some of y'all start to combine these steps and start doing some of this stuff in the same steps, which is perfectly fine. Just don't get so far ahead of yourself that you miss something simple. Like I know some of you are sitting there right now and you've already got these bubbles filled in. Okay, you're already saying to yourself, well, this one's going to be -2, and this one's going to be +5. So you're filling them in as you're writing it out instead of going back. And again, that's perfectly fine. You're getting the right answers and you can simplify this process, go for it. As long as we end up with the same center and the same radius at the end. Sorry, I'm looking for my page extender so I can scroll down. I'm running out of room. There it is. I don't know if y'all can hear, but in the background, as I'm trying to do this recording, Mr. Williams next door his class is doing some sort of around the room activity, so they're being kind of noisy. So if you can hear them, sorry. I can't exactly lock myself in a soundproof room. Y'all know me too well, I'd go crazy. Opposite, take the square root.